Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update. And this week, the referendum was easily defeated at the weekend. This is a result that was predicted by Roy Morgan in 4 polls released over the last month. In December last year, you'll remember, Australians supported establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice to Parliament, known by most as The Voice. We had 53% would have said yes at that point. However, from then, support for The Voice consistently dropped. And Roy Morgan predicted for a month that Australia would vote no to The Voice, although the strength of the no vote on the weekend was even greater than we expected. 60.7% as of October 17 voted no. Roy Morgan's analysis shows that 3 reasons for the greater than expected no vote. Firstly, the low turnout, especially among younger people who strongly supported yes. The high undecided, with a large proportion of people only deciding in the voting booth. And among those surveyed who'd already voted, Roy Morgan found 63% had voted no, and only 37% had voted yes. And social desirability. This bias is well known in research, and throughout the campaign, the socially acceptable answer was yes. So the results of Roy Morgan's polling on The Voice suggest that some of those who said they were undecided were in fact likely to vote no, but weren't prepared to openly state it. See below for a link to the Roy Morgan website and more detail on why Australians rejected The Voice. And now to the key weekly indicators. The latest Roy Morgan poll shows ALP support has increased this week, up 1% to 54%, with the coalition on 46% on a 2-party preferred basis. And this week, government confidence was down slightly by 2 points to 82.5, well below the neutral level of 100. It's really important, though, to understand that over 90% of our interviewing was completed before the results of the referendum were known. Next week, we'll see any political reaction to the Albanese government after the referendum failure. Unfortunately, consumer confidence couldn't manage consecutive weeks above the mark of 80. And this week, consumer confidence slid back, down 3.7 points to 76.4. The indicators that deteriorated most this time related to personal financial situations compared to a year ago, and looking forward over the next 12 months. This essentially reversed last week's improvement. Inflation expectations were up 0.2% to 5.3% this week. Australians are now expecting annual inflation to be 5.3% over the next 2 years. And that's in line with the average inflation expectations we've seen over the last 4 weeks, as concerns about high petrol prices continue. Average retail petrol prices in Australia have now been above $2 a litre for over 2 months since mid-August. That's the first time this has ever happened. Now a look at business. And the news isn't good, with business confidence down by 7.6 points to 87.1 in September. That's the lowest business confidence has been for 3 years. Roy Morgan interviews around 1,500 businesses each month, and the decline in business confidence in September follows renewed concerns about rising inflation and the prospect that the Reserve Bank may again raise interest rates in the next few months. The big driver of this decline in business confidence was more pessimism among businesses about their own prospects over the next year, with an all-time record high of almost a third, 30.5% of businesses saying they expect their business will be worse off financially this time next year. Additionally, a clear majority of businesses, 55.2%, expect bad times for the Australian economy over the next year. And even more, 63%, expect bad times over the next 5 years. That said, some sectors are far more confident than others. The most confident industry in September is information, media and telecommunications at 122.7. That's the highest business confidence for this industry for over 5 years. In second place, after being on top for much of this year, is education and training on 120.1. Both of these industries are more than 30% more confident than the average industry. Other highly confident industries include accommodation and food services on 116.7, finance and insurance on 115.9, and administration and support services on 115. In contrast, the retail industry is feeling the brunt of interest rate increases and high inflation, and now has clearly the lowest confidence at only 43.6, down by over 44 points over the last year. The latest ARA Roy Morgan pre-Christmas retail spending forecasts, released last week, shows virtually no growth on a year ago in nominal dollar terms, with an estimated $78 billion set to be spent in the 7 weeks leading up to Christmas. So with inflation running at about 4 to 5%, this means the actual volume of goods is set to be down on last year. So, after a very eventful week and Australia's first referendum in more than 20 years, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening today, and I look forward to bringing you the full reaction to this week's referendum result with the latest data on consumer confidence, inflation expectation, and of course voting intention next week.